Hi, it's Michael Kerr here, presenting Small Business Banter. A healthy micro and small business sector means a successful economy and a more vibrant society. Small Business Banter is about helping regional business owners better prepare for current challenges, but also for the next stage of business success. I'm Michael Kerr, founder of Kerr Capital, advisors to business owners. Each week, I interview a fellow small business owner or an expert, and they share their stories, their lived experiences, the wins and the losses, and their best advice to help you, the listener, get the most you can from your own business. Small Business Banter is brought to you from the studios of 104.7 Gippsland FM and is heard across Australia on the Community Radio Network. And thanks also to Kerr Capital, supporters of the show. On today's edition of Small Business Banter Radio, we'll pick up on the second part of my chat with Russell Spokes from Maggies Kitchen in Queenscliff, Victoria. Russell immediately continues off where we ended last week. He's just about to explain how experiences in other businesses that he and his wife own really influenced the timing that they both followed in choosing to exit Maggies Kitchen the way they wanted and at a time to suit them. If you missed part one, search Small Business Banter podcast and you can listen back.
We felt quite safe, it's probably the word, doing what we were doing.
Yeah.
And knowing that it was giving us a good income. Life was pretty good, even though we were working 7 days a week. We were getting a holiday. And, you know, we bought and sold a couple of houses. We were back on our feet. And so it was the safety or feeling secure with it is probably why at about the 15-year mark we said, no, let's just keep going.
So the reason you chose not to sell, but it wasn't that the money you might have been able to sell for just wouldn't have, you put that in the bank or you put it in shares and just not going to get the kind of financial return out of a small business.
So we just kept going along and we had the same landlord the whole time, and every time at the 3-year lease would come up, we'd pick the option up and add another 3 years onto the lease. So we always had 12 years behind us for somebody if we wanted to sell it, that there was plenty of lease on the business, which is another important thing I think you need to do, because if you do want to sell, people aren't going to buy a business that's only got a 3-year lease left on it. You need to keep your options up on your business so that if you do want to sell. But long story short, about 3 years ago, we were sort of getting, I was 64 and we sort of said, we got a business broker in and we said, you know, and to get a value on the place. But also what happened about 4 years ago, business took a real dip, and it wasn't just us generally, and so our figures dropped, and so it wasn't perhaps worth what we thought it was worth. So we did that. We took the lease up, and then we got the business broker in and said, "Okay, what's worth?" He told us. We sort of said, So we sat down and thought about it, and we said, well. I think we decided there and then that we work 3 more years. So it gives us a living for another 3 years. We put some more money into our super. And at the end of that 3 years, we just walk away.
Which is what you've basically
which is exactly
done in the
what we
month,
did.
Right? Is that?
Yes, that's right. So, we shut the shop about 3 weeks ago. So, the lease finished the 31st of October, so we finished up early October.
Right. So I'll definitely come back to how you're feeling a month out or month from. But so that experience with the broker, in retrospect, the business recovered pretty well by the sounds of it.
Yes.
So somebody missed an opportunity, or
Oh,
somebody.
yeah. We sort of look at it now. I mean, yeah, certainly now, that was where there was a real dip. But then each year it has steadily come back. And certainly, given how busy we were the last 3 months, once people knew we were going, was quite overwhelming. That, in some respects, I sort of think it's a pity in some ways, because it was a good business and a profitable business. But you had, again, once COVID hit anyway in March, there was no possibility of anyone taking it. We made it known that we were closing, and we made that known probably 2 years out.
Right.
And so we got approached by a couple of people who knew that we were closing and showed some interest in wanting to buy it. So we sort of said to them, well, yes, here it is. And we didn't ask a lot of money for it. But we sort of found that they had no idea or reality of running a business. They just they were quite naive in thinking that it just happens.
Yeah. So did you go through the process of explaining what it's like, the commitment involved?
Yes.
So
I said we had about 3 lots approaches over a period of a couple of months.
And this is just basically off the street.
Yes.
Right.
Yep, just basically off the street. And I said to them, it's a commitment. I said, an absolute commitment, and you're there 7 days a week. There'll be time when you get a little bit of time off, but forget having weekends off, or if you've all that sort of thing. And I think that a bit of a reality check hit them. But then when now it's all done and dusted, had we have sold it 6 months ago, we're better to have worked that 6 months ourselves.
Yeah.
To what we said we'd sell it to them for.
Yeah. It's a real trade-off. And I also but businesses do go through cycles, and I think there's a tendency to look at, and there should be a strong focus on what the business is doing right now. But when you've got a business, the first time around it's been running for 15 years, so it has a dip. The economy takes a dip. So you've got to look through that, and you've got to present your business in a way that you're not making up anything. You're just acknowledging that sometimes there are influences out of your control. But certainly, then you come to these approaches from people who aspire to be a business owner, but really haven't thought it through.
No, haven't thought through it at all. Yes. And the consequences of it, yeah.
But I think there's in my role as a business broker and an advisor on these sorts of things, I think part of what I really, took a lot of delight from hearing is that your business was serving you, and people, buyers for businesses I'm involved in the sale of, sometimes I'm a bit like you. If they've never run a business, I'd love to see more people in their own business for their own reasons. But if it's clear they're just pie in the sky, it's going to be a waste of time. So, but there are also others who, just don't do enough of their own due diligence to see through. Don't work hard enough on working out why that business has been around for so long, and maybe there are some fundamental trends coming that are going to make it hard. But an opportunity missed, I think, for for somebody there. But admire that you've been through it a couple of times, and you went your way. So well done.
Yes, I think some people were coming in and when closing was getting closer and couldn't believe that someone wouldn't have bought it, or we didn't even try to sell it. And but I don't think they fully appreciate or understand what goes into it all. And we have no regrets about what we did whatsoever. We had a plan 3 years out, and we stuck to it. And we don't have a regret at all of not selling it. In some ways, it would have been it's still there, but it was always it's probably a bit of a cliche, but it was always our baby. We started it, we grew it, and it was ours.
Yeah.
And so there was this feeling that also perhaps if we sold it, it perhaps, not that it should worry you, I suppose, because you've sold it, you've got your money and you go, but you do.
Well, of course you do. Yeah, you don't put that much time and as a couple into something like that. But I pose the question: if somebody had come along who was, thinking about it the right way, was open to the idea of working hard, might you have had a bit more of a desire to sell it and give somebody else a bit of a crack at a business that's been good for you?
Probably most definitely. I mean, one couple that come to us were probably a couple in their early 40s, and I really had a good long hard talk with them, and I really thought they would have been good, and I did say to them that I would be more than happy if they wanted to, at any stage that they felt they were getting into trouble or whatever, that I was more than willing, even if it was 12 months down the track, to come back and say to them, well, perhaps you need to be doing this. But I think what turned the few people off was the cooking.
Right.
You can easily muck it up, which I did from time to time. But it was perhaps a skill that I didn't perhaps recognise that I had as much as I did with it in the finish.
Yeah, okay. That's when you're in the business day to day, it's that perspective. What you do is what you do. It doesn't look.
Yes, that's right.
But,
yes,
but it can be daunting for somebody else looking in to say, how do you do that?
Yeah, I mean, I added up one day. And not that I even really did worried about it too much, but we made something like 42 different lines. And to say that to somebody is quite daunting. And, when we were busy, I would be making anything up to 12 to 14 pots a day.
Yeah, there's a lot of washing in between. And
yeah, but, there would be 6 pots on the stove.
Yeah.
And as one come off, another one would go on. Well, that was a skill that I learned over a long time.
Yeah.
For someone who's never done that, the visage of having even 4 pots of that sort of stuff on the stove cooking at once would be quite daunting.
Yeah. Get it wrong, and there goes
$100
worth of your great
Tommies.
Tommies.
Yes, and that's happened to me on more than one occasion.
Well, that's called learning. Yeah.
Yes. That's right.
Yeah, so you go.
I think it was it probably more because it was a bit specialised in that way that you'd sort of need to find someone who had a real interest in that sort of that side of things.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I do a lot of with owners is really works when they've had an idea that it might be time to sell. Just steering them right away from this idea that it's easy to sell, it's quick to sell, even if you reduce the price. That can often make no difference. It's about being able to explain how the business works and things like you just talked about, which is maybe there is some hidden skills in that in the way you went about cooking it, but you bring that to the surface as part of preparing to sell the business, and these are you expected an interested buyer doing their due diligence is going to ask good questions, and you've got you've thought about them in advance. And so there's a lot in preparing that is beyond just the numbers. It's about how it goes day to day and who does what and all sorts of things. But you only get that when you spend time. But the other thing is really pinpointing and dealing with the buyers that are have got the capacity, financial and operationally, to take it on. And
that's right. Yep, that's exactly right.
It's too easy for business brokers across the board just to, and I've seen a lot of this, don't put enough time into preparing the business, and it's not just them; it's the owners as well. Assuming it's just going to be quick and easy, and they're frankly, it's lazy. But that, and then to say, oh, there's no buyers around. There's always a buyer for a business. In regional areas, you're more typically looking at years to find that right buyer, because if they're not local, they're going to move there, and they've got to mainly. It's a numbers game. It's you've got to find something with the skills, the interest, the financial capacity.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, we in hindsight, you sort of look and said, well, gee, look at the bottom line, and we've shut the door. But we look at it as, okay, we've worked another 3 years. We've lived out of it for another 3 years. It's given a lifestyle for another 3 years. Whereas if we'd have sold it 3 years ago, that money that we made from the sale probably would be long gone.
Yeah. Look, it's as we said earlier, as we agreed earlier, the return out of a well, it doesn't have to be a world beater, but a good solid small business is a lot better than money in the bank.
Yes, yeah. I mean, the other question was, I'm now 67. The next question was, well, do we take another 3-year lease, and try and sell it? And if it doesn't sell, which it takes time to sell, and it doesn't sell, I'm going to be 70 before we finish.
Yeah.
And so,
that's that trade-off, isn't it? Your time, is precious, and Maggie's time is precious. So I mean, we took the view for 27 years. We've worked 7 days a week. We've had our annual holiday, but basically we work 7 days a week for 27 years. That we decided we had reached a point where we had enough. And so you were talking before about how we feel a month on. And funnily enough, I went to the accountant this morning and haven't seen him since we finished up, and we're sort of wrapping everything up. And he asked me that question, which is a common question: how do you feel now? And quite honestly, I really we have been busy because we've closed the shop, we had to clean it out. But I don't feel sad, or we haven't really had a lot of time to think about it yet, but certainly not missing it. I must say I'm surprised. I'm really surprised, but at the moment I'm certainly not missing it. Yeah, okay. That's a good early sign. Maybe we'll check in again in 6 months, see how you might be.
Well, that's right. Might be different then, but certainly at this stage, no, we're not. Certainly, Maggie's not missing it. Maggie had certainly had enough.
Yeah.
But I have surprised myself a little bit. I thought I'd be looking for it or whatever, but no, it hasn't worried me. And the other question, he sort of said to me, how emotional were we the last day or two? And strangely enough, no, it didn't sort of. We were too busy.
Yeah, okay.
We were just too busy to even think about it.
Yeah, it sounds like a really hectic time, and as I say, maybe we'll check in again.
Yeah,
it's after that amount of time. But so far, it's great to hear, and it sounds like you've timed it well, and you've again stuck to your plan, and that's to be admired. Yeah. I just wanted to get from you a little bit of wisdom and advice for other owners who, firstly, those that are thinking about selling and some of the considerations they need to make and the advice you would give to those who have had that signal that I really should do something. I really,
Yes.
I want to do something else other than business. What would you be saying to them as your top couple of tips?
Oh, I think that if you're at a point where you're had enough, I think you've got to look at one or two ways. You've either, if you need, you want to sell your business, you've then got to look at what the business is worth. I think a lot of people have a business and they trying to sell it, they put too much on it. They think to them the business is worth more than what it actually is worth.
They make up a number often more than regularly, and it's fueled by brokers trying to get listings in a lot of cases, which is
it is. And so my advice would be, well, for what it's worth, is be realistic about what figure that your business is worth.
Yeah.
They seem to use a lot of different formulas for what a business is worth. But a business is only worth what someone's willing to pay for it. And so, if you're going to put a big price on it, then you're still going to be sitting there. Yeah.
Yeah. You're going to burn up those years.
Yep.
Hoping and, whatever
Praying,
else you do. Yeah. For this Tatsloto result.
Yeah,
I think,
that's right.
I think you're absolutely right about having a fundamental and realistic understanding of your business.
Yep.
The bit you said about, it's only what it's worth to buyers. I think that's probably the biggest opportunity. It goes to a lot of things we've talked about today, which is grooming the right buyers and preparing thoroughly for the transition of the business from one owner to the other, because I've run a lot of business sale processes over a long time where we've actually not put a price on the business to make it easy for people to straight away to go, we're going to negotiate south of there.
Yep.
What we did was, it doesn't work in all industries, but in some industries, it's we prepare the business well. We set the owner's expectations about what they should expect and by when, as much as we can, but then and provide quality information to potential buyers, do some pretty heavy due diligence on who they are and why they're interested, because if they're not, they're just chasing information about a competitor, will see them off. But we try to guide them to put a value on the business that's worth to them. It's a fascinating process. As I say, it doesn't work, but that where we have done that, it's so your business, you can think it's worth $500,000 and it can be quite rational, but somebody else can see it legitimately being worth 250.
That's right.
And somebody else for 750, and that's the bit that you said is making sure that you talk to the right buyers and prepare properly, because it's often missed.
And sometimes, Mike, I think life is more important to spend, like because of the age that we were at. It would be different if we were 40, but I'm 67, and we took the view is we're still healthy, we're still good. We're not going to retire millionaires, but we're going to retire and we're okay. And sometimes that's more important than sitting there for another 3 or 4 years waiting for someone to come in and buy it.
Yeah.
That's just a philosophy that I have. I just sort of think that, we'll be comfortable, we're okay, and, life's good. Yeah.
And not, as you said, somewhere during this time together, not be too greedy, I think was your So that's probably a really the right way to finish this discussion, I think. Russell, I really appreciate how open you were and sharing a really great story about your business with Maggie.
Thank you.
remain intrigued about the whole thing of, winding it down. But the point is you've exited your business on your terms, and you should be very, very pleased with yourselves. You don't need me to tell you that.
No,
but
no,
good for you. And I wish you well. And I'll probably bump into you around Queenscliff somewhere. And if you've got a spare jar of that relish left over, probably not.
No, there is a couple of jars left here at the house. Yes.
All right, they're collector's items. Look, thank you so much. Really appreciate your time, Russell.
It's been a pleasure, mate. No worries.
All right, all the best.
Okay, take care.
Cheers.
Good. Bye.
Hope you enjoyed the conclusion to my chat with Russell Spoke. Such an open, honest and informative reflection on the very positive way that he and his wife chose to exit their business. This is also the end of the special Small Business Banter summer series that's been designed to educate regional business owners and local communities on a better and more successful exit. It was based on the direct and personal experiences of owners who have been through it. They've happily shared their experience and their learnings, and I'm really hopeful that it's helped you with your exit planning and that you've taken away some practical insights and tips straight from the horse's mouth. Look forward to having you listen into ongoing episodes of Small Business Banter, and remember, if there's anything you missed, search up Small Business Banter on your favourite podcast service. So that is all for today's episode of Small Business Banter. I continue to be inspired, bringing you small business experts and other small business owners and hearing their stories. If you want to listen to any past episode, jump onto your podcast platform of choice and search Small Business Banter. There you will find a diverse and fascinating collection of small business owners and experts openly discussing and sharing their experiences. For any of the links, resources or information we've talked about on the show today, or to contact me, please head over to smallbusinessbanter.com, or you can find us on Facebook and Instagram. And it would be great to have you tune in the same time next week for another episode of Small Business Banter.